Hey guys, it's your boy Kenny Boulder with another Warhammer 40K novel review. So, I am very lucky today to show off one of, honestly, the holy grail finds here, which is Dead Man Walking by Steve Lyons. Steve Lyons here is one of the pre-mal Warhammer 40K novel authors for the Death Korps of Krieg. Death Korps of Krieg, this is their first book, was released in 2011, and I actually have never read it. So it comes with two stories. The first one, Dead Man Walking, and I think it's like Left for Dead or something like that. So, but Left Behind Dead. It's a short story. So this came out this year, and this is the limited edition copy. Limited edition copy here. So you have your Krieg Guardsman right here. No hopes, no dreams, no desires. Nothing but his Gures and the prospect of a violent end. And of course, the front you have a Krieg Guardsman with a last pistol, Dead Man Walking, and again, the background is a last gun. So, got this book, limited edition. Of course, this is from Black Library, hardback, and you can see like everything about it is like barbed wire. In fact, even the bookmark is a barbed wire bookmark. So, it's pretty cursed, man. Of course, and the inside of it is some Krieg Guardsmen rushing in on a mission. Same in the back as well. So you have them running in a mission. And my book, because, you know, I always tell folks what my copy is. So again, these copies are signed by the author, Dead Man Walking, Steve Lyons. And mine is 1217. So book 1217 out of 1750. So I got very lucky. I bought this about a month ago. Finally was able to read it. And I will do a book review now. So this is an old book. Obviously, this came out almost 10 plus years ago, the story. So I'm honestly shocked I've not read this novel in the series. I have read Krieg already, so I've read one of Steve Lyons' books already. However, I've not read Dead Man Walking. So I am going to give a spoiler warning right now. This is where the spoilers are going to come in. So spoiler warning if you want to avoid spoilers. So right off the bat, so this book is a doozy. So in the beginning of the book, the author talks about how he wants to tell a story about two factions that really have not had much war stated on them. One is the Necrons. This is, you know, early Necron lore is just they're Terminators, they're killing machines, they are soulless robots, automatons, and they're gonna kill all life and anything with that is alive. Secondly, he wanted to write a novel about a faction of guardsmen that is super soulless. The whole thing is that they are dehumanized organic robots, essentially. A Krieg Guardsman regiment is essentially almost the same as a Necron army. Because they're both just automatons fighting for automatons. And so we have the story of this is that a mining world is essentially assaulted and attacked by a Tomb World awakening. And then salvation comes by 3 Krieg Guards regiments. So you have 4 main stories here at this point. You have one, a mine overseer, Gunthar. Gunthar is the main protagonist, so to speak. He is one of the main characters there. Another character is a commissar of the Death Korps of Krieg. So you think that commissars are all members of the Death Guard. They're not. They're not a member of the Death Korps of Krieg. This commissar is just a normal guy. He's actually pretty progressive in my opinion. He's a pretty cool guy. And he's been with the Krieg's Guardsmen for almost like 20 years already. So that is one of his POV characters. Another POV character is the niece of a Imperial Governor of the world. Her name is Eryx. Eryx is she's basically the heir to the planet, essentially. She is the niece of the Imperial Governor of the planet. And our 4th POV character is a guardsman himself. Not a guardsman, a PDF trooper. So there's actually a couple other characters as well that they have POV character moments, including the governor himself. But the main 4 is the main protagonist, his love interest, commissar, and here and there you have a PDF trooper as well. So long story short, this is an Imperial world. They've never seen war before. They've sent regiments out to as Imperial Tithe, but they're mostly a forge world. So they just produce goods and services to the Imperium of Man. And lo and behold, the Necrons come out. So the Necrons initially are, they're considered mutants because there's a Necron unit. It's like, they're basically like creepy, crawly Necrons who want to cover themselves in the flesh of others. And they start showing up and they attack the Imperials. And the Imperials then send a message saying, hey, we need assistance. There's a Xenos possible attack happening on our world. And so 3 Imperial Guard regiments arrive by the Death Korps of Krieg. And there's about 35,000 of them, okay? So 35,000 guardsmen show up. And originally the commissar is like, yeah, this world's doomed. Let's exterminate us and move on. But the generals, the Krieg generals say, hey, we're going to do a ground offensive. We're going to start sending troops on the planet. And so we go to our main 2 POV characters, a man by the name of Gunthar. He's a mine overseer, and he's basically witnessing the beginning of the Necron invasion. He's with his love interests, again, Eryx. Eryx is the governor's niece. She's basically nobility. She's the rich of the richest, and she has fallen in love with a kind of middle of the ground imperial like bureaucrat. Gunthar is a overseer of the mines, and he's always wanted to be a hero. You know, like that's his like main motivation for a while, is that he wants to have a meaningful life, to be in the Imperial Guard, or to be a hero. And the first time they see Necrons, they flee, they run. So multiple times throughout the story, we are basically hinted that the Death Korps of Krieg, this Imperial Guard regiment, is dehumanizing. They're not regular people. They treat people as numbers. And this being the first introduction for the Death Korps is kind of interesting for me, because obviously we know a lot about the lore now. We know the fact that they've nuked their own planet. We know the fact that they have like motifs of trench warfare. And this story kind of for me is like seeing what they were originally looked like. And I feel like a lot of the characters had some depth to them. Each Imperial Guardsman of the Death Korps of Krieg essentially was like, my one and sole life mission is to die for the Emperor. And so this dehumanization is constantly happening. And every time we go to our commissary main character, he basically just is like hacks like, hey, my mission is to be the liaison between the Death Korps and the planetary government. And right off the bat, when they arrive, they're like, yeah, this world's not martial law. All planetary forces are under my command. And sorry, Governor, if you want to do something about it, well, take it up to the administration. And Governor Henrik, I think that's his name, he then dons his armor and is like, now I'm Governor General, and I will lead and, help wherever I can and try to save my niece from trap in the capital city. And that's a big thing, is that our first point is that they basically surround the city that's the capital, and they basically begin sieging their own city. And so they lock the gates, they tell no one can get out, no one can come in, and they begin to bombard and siege the capital city of the planet. And it's like grinding battle, like the trench lines are formed, guardsmen fight Necrons, and at one point the commissar and the planetary general governor guy, they go to the colonel, a colonel of the Krieg military unit. He basically says like, yeah, like 18,000 soldiers died to be martyrs, and there's a lot of clash between like, okay, now since you have declared martial law, you have to essentially do a draft, and every able-bodied man must be conscripted immediately. And that was, like, the planetary governor and the commissar are pretty moderate here, in my opinion, in this imperial bureaucracy. And like, it's hinted that this colonel is all he sees is incompetence. At one point, he's talking to the governor general, and at one point the governor general is like saying like, hey, like, we have to save my niece, she's important. And he like hints having his arm at his holster of his bolt gun, because he's possibly going to execute the governor general for heresy or something, or incompetence, or just not being a team player. So this the theme of the book is that the Imperial Guard Regiment of the Death Corps of Krieg is just essentially like they are so fanatical for the dedication to the Emperor. The hint of insubordination, a hint of incompetence, I will literally execute you on the spot. So we go back to Gunther. Gunther is now he's a refugee. He's a survivor. He's trying to escape the Necrons. He meets up with a bunch of survivors. They try to get to the gates, but they're unsuccessful. And at one point, Gunther meets with a couple refugees. They go through. They fight mutants. There's mutants running around. There's like a growing cult of Necron cult lovers, worshippers, and basically escape. At one point, Gunther he escapes actually. So he goes in and tries to find Eric's because she tries to find him, and he finds her her necklace in the middle of a street, I believe, and the necklace has a communication bead, and the governor does send help and they rescue Gunther, but they never find Eric's, and Eric's is now lost in the capital city. In fact, she is essentially works in a labor camp for a Necron cult. So this Necron cult shows up and they are like, they're just a bunch of cultists for Necrons, and it's kind of funny. They start calling the Necrons as the Iron Gods or something like that, and she meets up with her former betrothal or something like that, like a former ex, and his name is Tyler, and Tyler is like the son of an admiral, and their plot is now surviving under a cultist oppression, and weeks go by actually. So in the grand scheme of things, like it goes by multiple times. Like there's multiple times where there's weeks and weeks of this, and we get multiple times where Gunther is eventually then recruited. He's now a trooper of the Planetary Defense Force, and the Planetary Defense Force and the Death Corps of Krieg began a massive assault at this capital city. And we go in the lore of the Death Corps' weaponry, their gear. They all wear rebreather masks, so they basically wear face masks and helmets. And it's mentioned multiple times that their last guns are a bit more unique. They're more charged, 25 shots, and they are more equipped. So a lot of lore comes into place here. We have Watchmasters, which are like officers. We have Quartermasters, which are the guys who basically pick up the gear of the Fallen, including masks, guns, ammo, and armor. And it's very interesting to see like this bureaucratic unit where, you know, everything is valuable. All the gear is valuable. So we have to scavenge as much gear as we can. And next man up, you know, like if one trooper dies, the other picks up his rifle and shoots kind of vibes. So that's a very important part about the lore of the Death Corps of Krieg. We go in, and Gunther is like, he's basically like a guy without, his only sole mission is to save Eric's, and throughout multiple times, he's begging to go on a rescue mission, begging to go into the city, and he gets refuted multiple times, and he becomes more and more dehumanized. So he has like a 3-week training course with the Death Corps of Krieg's instructors, and it's pretty brutal stuff you kind of read. Throughout the novel itself, he's basically becoming more and more like them. And so eventually the big battle happens, and everyone is sent into the city. At this point, Tyler and Eric's, they're like surviving off of scraps. They escape the cultists, and the Imperial Army attacks, essentially, and assaults the Necron tomb world. And again, the Necrons don't really have any lines. They don't even show up that much. Their units are showed up. Their Gauss rifles are showed up. And at one point, there's a moment where they're just being compared as the same. You know, skull-face monster robots fighting skull-face dehumanized robot organic soldiers. And it's just like they're basically just killing each other in this grand battle. And Gunther is giving a great honor of being a walking bomb. So he's strapped with like a nuke, and his mission is that he must go under the Necron tomb world and blow himself up. And and they kill off the Governor General. At one point, the Governor General receives a communication from the cult, and the cult says, "We have your niece. If you want your niece back, call off the attack." And he doesn't, or and he responds, "I'll try what I can." The colonel finds out, shows up a minute later, and just executes him on the spot. So he's just like, "Yeah, treason, bang." So We lose one point of character as well. I forgot, the Planetary Defense Force guy. He is killed off eventually as well. He is just, he's at the capital city. He gets killed off eventually. And the Commissar is, he goes in the city to advance, and there's some mines. There's some cultists fighting at them. And he's like, hey, let me talk to these guys. And a moment beforehand, you get a piece of his chapter saying he's done with working with the Imperial Guards of Death Corps of Krieg, and he's asked to be transferred out of the unit. And he talks to the Colonel, and at one point, the Colonel gives him a little souvenir, so to speak, a fragment of the Colonel Juten. Colonel Juten was the hero of Krieg, and that's like the only moment where any Death Corps member has any form of, like, they just basically say, like, hey, they're in awe of having a piece of their hero, so to speak, the guy who nuked their own planet, and to save it from the Imperium. And to die is the greatest cause of the Imperium, is, to my service is to this Colonel, my service is to the God Emperor of mankind, etc., etc. So he goes out, talks to these cultists, and is killed. He gets killed by a member of Death Corps of Krieg because he's like in a wrestling match with a cultist and gets shot behind, and he dies. And unfortunately, that's his end. So, very traumatic, very sad. We go back to Eric's and Tyler. Tyler and Eric's, they escape. They actually get through the walls. They make it all the way down. They follow the army. And they get to the wall, and they're like, hey, don't shoot us. I'm the governor's niece. And they get through. They're lucky. And they get to the spaceport. And the Imperial counterattack fails miserably. So, throughout this whole time, the Necrons, their whole power is that they are just an unstoppable army. And the Necrons just keep coming back to life. And so, at that point in the book and the story, the Necrons are overwhelming the Imperial Guard. And Gunther tries very hard to get himself, like, martyred. He and a squad of local planetary defense forces, they try to go so hard to get under the Tomb World, the pyramid, and they fail. So the Imperial Guard loses the battle. They begin to retreat, and one point, Gunther goes up and talks to the Colonel. He's like, Colonel, I try to get myself killed. And the Colonel's like, yeah, well, we've lost, and now the war is over. And then we get this very depressing end of the story, as everyone is basically being evacuated. And surprise, this world has 9 billion people, okay? So 9 billion people live in this world, and they're basically all dead. They're screwed. The last act of compassion, and the only compassion I saw, was that the Colonel, the Death Corps of Krieg, basically says, hey, our ship was supposed to have 35,000 people. My unit only has 5,000, so he tells Eric's, you can decide 25,000 souls to be saved and join us for our next front, next battle. And she's like, yeah, just me and my betrothal, Tyler, us two, we get to live in. I'll let my city managers or whatever figure out the rest of the 25,000 souls out of 9 billion people. So it's hinted that there might be some rescue ships, but it doesn't really matter, because after they evacuate, the Necrons begin to take over the world. They begin to march out and attack other cities. And Gunther is then, his POV is that he's been left behind. So this is like the sad part of the story, is that he spends all this time trying to dehumanize himself, becoming one of the Imperial Guardsmen, and then he sees Eric's alive, and he regains his humanity in a way, and it's too late. And he does not get to go. He is now stranded on the planet that's about to be nuked and destroyed. So he kind of walks around aimlessly. He stays in the spaceport. Then he wanders back to the city, the capital city. By then, all the Necrons are gone because they're destroying the rest of the world. And so he goes to like a plaza, a statue where he first meets Eric's for the first time. He brings out a ring that he's been keeping this whole time because he's going to propose to her. And it's like really sad, dude. Like this is like a grim fucking story right here. Like Steve Lyons, man. This is some heavy shit. He brings out the ring that he's gonna propose and imagines if he did propose to her. And at that point, he's just like a shell of a person. He's like, I have no point in living. There's nothing left for me to do. And so he walks around and scavenges a outfit, a Death Corps of Krieg outfit, puts on the uniform, puts on the mask, and now he's like, I have purpose. My purpose is to die for the Emperor. And he goes out. He goes out like, yeah, that's it. He goes out, tries to kill off some Necrons before he dies. And that's his story. We don't get anything else. He dresses up as a guardsman and goes out with a bang, essentially. So, very grim, very dark, no happy ending. And I guess Eric's has a happy ending. She makes it out with Tyler. And I should be clear, like, she has reservations, and at this point, like, she and Tyler are basically a couple. And it just feels bad because at one point, Gunther sees her at the spaceport, and he tries to reach out to her and tries to, like, hey, like, I'm still alive, come, like, hey, I've been waiting for you, I try to rescue you, and she doesn't see him in the crowd because there's hundreds of thousands of people in the crowd trying to get on the spaceship to escape this doomed planet. The other story, also very dark, and it was called Left 4 Dead. Not the video game, but the story is called Left 4 Dead. And this is a story about a guardsman who's been left behind. This guardsman has been left behind after the battle. He takes on a role called Avo. So Avo, this character, is essentially left behind. He basically dons a dead guy's outfit, becomes him, and he starts rebuilding the world. And he's going through a lot of questioning what he's doing for, why he and his brothers, Imperial Guardsmen of the Death Korps of Krieg, have to die for these people. And he meets an 11-year-old. This 11-year-old it's just like heartbreaking, dude. It's like, yeah, I'm an orphan. I have to work with you in this labor camp. And they work together, and eventually he tells him about himself, about is one's duty to die for the Emperor. And essentially, this kid is so naive, but she just eats up his information. And the reveal is that she knew the previous guy. So she knew who Avo was originally. And this guy, Avo, the guardsman that donned his outfit, like he realizes that, okay, that's why. And he becomes her protector. It's very wholesome. And then at one point, surprise, cultists attack. The cultists attack this labor camp. And he becomes a boss. Like, he takes out his last gun, kills these dudes, bombs these guys. And unfortunately, the other character, she dies. Because, this is grim fucking dark. This is peak depression. She's dead. And he realizes that, I'm doing this for her. I'm doing this for these people who keep rebuilding after being attacked by cultists, demons, etc. So he signs up with the Planetary Defense Force and is eventually shipped off. And Avo becomes like this, he goes on another merry chase to fight and die for the Imperium of Man. And even though he tasted what freedom looks like, and freedom is not fun. These people are in a labor camp. It's like basically a glorified gulag. They're servitors that whip them if they don't meet their quotas, and it's like depressing. It's like horribly depressing. So, we are finished with Dead Man Walking and Left Behind. And huge shout out to Steve Lyons. And again, I appreciate you guys watching my reviews. This was a very grim book. I'm not surprised because it's about the Death Korps of Krieg. Krieg is one of the most dehumanizing units. And my whole thing is that the future of the grim and darkness of the 41st millennium of the Warhammer 40K world building is that literally these guys are fascists. And these guys are the worst of the worst, and they do things for the hints of heresy. And for me, it's just like, these stories are wild to read, because in this massive world, there's this unit of military guardsmen who are just basically, they will give everything for nothing, essentially. Like, they will sacrifice everything they can on the basis of just, hey, we're doing it because these are the orders that we've been told. So I give this book overall a 4 out of 5. Again, very depressing, very dark. Early books about Warhammer 40K. And obviously gives you a lot of credence that this book still resonates to this day in 2025. So again, guys, it's your boy Kenny Boulder. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know how you guys feel about Warhammer 40K. Let me know how you feel about the other books that Steve Lyons has written. And I appreciate you guys checking out my review. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time. For the Emperor.